We're back. It's the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scott Hagner. Scott, how goes it?
Goes good.
Nice, man. You look bundled up. Is it still cold there?
It's not that bad. I've just been out on the floor where it's colder, and I'm in here. I probably could actually take this off. But
For those of you at home who do not know, Scott actually has ice water running through his veins. I am now a true Floridian. I had to wear, sweatshirts and long johns and wool socks just to bear the cold. So I guess being immersed in South Florida for 8.5 years, I am now a thin-blooded lizard,
yeah,
iguana.
funny how that happens.
Yeah, we just got a little bit of a cold snap today. It was like in the high 50s at night, and then it was like, it's like 75 during the day. So this is actually like a real weather that we should be getting.
Winter.
Yeah, I know. Well, relative to some other people in the Northeast who are getting crushed by snow, it's nothing. I had a bunch of people who I had a client who was supposed to go to Iceland and their flight got canceled, and they were at the airport for like 5 hours waiting for transfers and we can go here, can we go here, no, and boom, they got stuck. That was it. So they're going to try it again today and see if they can get out to Iceland for a vacation.
Wow. Yikes.
So it's been a few days, Scott, since we got done with our Human Matrix seminar with Zach Cupples. And we've got a bit of a chance to implement some of the ideas and concepts and even go through some of the exercise routines that Zach had prescribed. Zach had prescribed. You get a chance to try anything out yet, Scott?
Yeah, I've done added some of the things into my daily kind of mobility routine, and I've done a couple of the narrow infrasternal angle workouts, and then I've also implemented some of the techniques and refined some of the techniques with clients.
One of the things that you had seen and kind of made aware of when we did this seminar, Scott, was the glute activation stuff. Since kind of being aware of that, have you seen any changes at all? Is it clicking a little bit easier for you, or are you still kind of struggling with it?
Yeah, no, I think I won't say I have it down in every rep every time, but so I did the first workout I did has trap bar deadlifts in it, which I've been consistently trap bar deadlifting every week, and I did some warm up reps with the technique with kettlebells light as we did, and then I tried to see if I could carry over to what my planned work weights were. 3 sets of 2 I was doing.
Yep.
Felt good. Felt like snappy, like I could carry it over. I filmed myself, and at least as best as my eye could tell, I was did it properly. The only other lower body thing in that workout is I not having a cable machine. I did a slide plank variation, like a star side plank with my arm on a slider, because I'm trying to get after a little shoulder stability in that side plank. Lo and behold, my glutes and my hamstrings and just the muscles around my hip are significantly sore.
Oh, wow.
So that's clearly a marker that I had to have done something differently, because I've been doing the trap bar deadlift progression since August, and it was not any different weight or volume, and I've never been sore week to week to week whatsoever from doing it, and suddenly this time I was.
Wow.
Unless you can think that the side plank did the job, which I've also been doing those too, so I don't,
Yeah. I agree. I think just like the positions, and then being aware of what those should be like in any of those exercises, you definitely feel a lot more lit up through your hips, and then, like you said, the lower abs kind of deal.
Well, I will say, I guess I could maybe blame half nightly landmine presses done properly on that, because I just noticed that's a long time under tension, locked in there pressing for multiple sets of 10, and I don't know if you've encountered that as well, just that exact focus on
the time
the
and
set
attention
position.
and the focus too. Yeah, I think so. A couple things. One, I've started doing some of the workouts myself, but also I've done with my clients and classes some of the exercises and some of the points of emphasis. So I'll start with myself. The warm up I really like. It's a great combination of understanding how to control, but then also opening up the areas that you want to be opening up. my big aha the other day was focusing on like really, really down and low, like out and low of where I should be feeling it. So kind of like usually I'm like, all right, I want to get my ribs down, but I got to get further out and further down, like almost like above your hip bones. You know what I mean? Like that's where you got to be. I'm starting to focus more of, and it's taking some of that rectus out of the equation. Because if I think more up here, like trying to get my ribs down here, that's causing me to crunch. I almost think about keeping the emphasis there, and that feels much lower for me.
I see. Yeah. So instead of trying to move the sternal area, you're thinking about more on the lateral border you're bringing down.
Yeah, and contracting there, because that's where the internal and external obliques really are, right? When you are shanking somebody, you're like, hold this. But if you're thinking about bringing the rib cage down, you're going to think crunch. If you're just thinking, okay, get these to work, and then give that nice sigh, and all of a sudden you're starting to feel the rib cage come down without using nearly as much rectus. And then when you have that, then I get the expansion through the pump handle, and it's such a significant difference.
Interesting. Yeah, that just even sitting here and doing it a little bit while listening to you, that sounds, I like that, because that's one thing I've struggled with a bit too, is getting the rectus too involved by trying to bring it, focusing on pulling that part down. And
go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, I find myself like, okay, trying to figure, okay, release it, activate here, okay, but it's not always fluid. Depends on the position.
Yep. But I think that's also dependent as well. But yeah, just once you get that and you're like, okay, that's where it is, everything else starts to line up. The glutes fire more. I was doing, and for those of you who are maybe doing, trying to do single arm work, Scott has like, some great ideas. And one of the things that I practice was, I don't have a cable machine, but I have bands, just like regular jump stretch bands you would use for like mobility or pull-up assistance. I took a fat grip and I put that on the band and then wrapped it around my rig, and then I can basically vary wherever I want, and I have a handle. So for things like low rows and the single leg slider RDLs, I was able to use that. And it was a pretty good, consistent stimulus using that.
That's a great idea. I did some of the low split rows, which I really liked with the band. We have a pulley system, but it's unfortunately broken right now. But that's a great idea to throw one of the fat grips. You're talking about the fat grips with the Z, right? You throw on your barbell. Yep. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Not to mention that you're also probably getting a little bit more of that Polquin stimulus of getting some fat grip work on, and maybe getting some deeper motor recruitment there. But
exactly.
So I really liked. I did the floor press workout as well, the alternating dumbbell floor press. Definitely a lot of time with the dumbbells in your hand because you're doing alternating reps. But the idea of reaching that opposite dumbbell as you're bringing one up and filling up that chest wall with air while maintaining it's really is training the brain to be able to breathe and move. You know what I mean? Whereas, sometimes when we do singles or doubles or even sets of 5, you can just basically take 1 or 2 breaths, and it really doesn't matter. When you're doing probably upwards of 60 seconds of timer attention, you have to breathe. So it almost brings in a whole different idea and I guess underlying concept to things like oxidative work.
Yes.
Because you've worked with oxidative work in the past, right, Scotty? Like 2:0 tempos and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that might have some good carryover in terms of what we've been working on and maybe like integrating it with that?
I believe so. Yeah, that's something I had thought about playing with, and I also did the I guess it's day 2 with the alternating presses, and I've really noticed also what you said. Like if I didn't send the breath where it needed to go, I could one shoulder or elbow or something might bark a small amount because I wasn't in a good position. But when I did it correctly, it would feel like it's supposed to, like, no problem whatsoever, pretty much every time. And then so I saw some inefficiencies in what I had been doing, and now there's a little bit of got to retrain this to do it all kind of reflexively. But I think you absolutely could tie that into oxidative work done that way. Is done. You're supposed to breathe through that. It's not supposed to be loads that require, and I think that could be really something to get after and explore.
Yeah. I was doing the push-ups the other day with a 3030 tempo, and that's something I started noticing. I'm like, holy shit, this is so hard to breathe and actually keep this aerobic, because you can't really get that good breath in because you're under tension and your rib cage naturally wants to fall forward and your hips naturally want to tuck. But, again, keeping it very, very simple, I imagine is going to have good carryover later on to more advanced movements. At the very least, the bulk of the work is probably done with such simplicity that you can actually master the breathing pattern, if so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it would have to be, because it's not easy to manage all that stuff at one time.
It's patting your head, rubbing your belly, while also remembering that the stove is on and you had to do your laundry at the same time. Like, there's so much going on.
While hopping on one leg.
Yeah, while hopping on one leg. Did you get a chance? Since doing this little seminar, Scott, and working with your clients, have you seen things in a different way, maybe in a different perspective, or had some aha moments with the clients that you've been working with?
Yeah, definitely had a few. I've definitely integrated it and seen, cleaned some stuff up.
Oh, no kidding. Share.
Yeah. Just working with one relatively experienced person when you're doing, hang power cleans, and then tying some of the positions ahead of time, that tuck and activation was it's like, whoa, the amount of additional power. And, it looked visually fine. It still wasn't, exactly what it could be. So that really was an aha moment there.
Yep. I know for me, obviously I work a little bit more classes. I work with individuals, and I've been taking a lot of my individual clients and just putting them through little 5 to 10 minute assessments in terms of the infrasternal angle, horizontal abduction, and then internal external rotation. And even doing that via, FaceTime and Skype. But the consistency I see is almost 100% of people don't have hip extension. And I would say out of those 100%, half of them have severe limitations in hip extension. And I would say from that, then a quarter of those can't even get a butt tuck. And then I have a few who can actually get a butt tuck, but then can't get full hip extension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Have you come up with how have you done the remote assessments for that?
So I will have them kind of, the one that I did the other day was, I kind of knew that she was going to be a narrow as is. She had a breast augmentation as well. So I'll go into that a little bit before we go into what I did for the thing. But I was talking to Zach Cupples about breast augmentation, and I know this isn't quite as a epidemic in your area, Scott. No. But I would say probably 1 in 3 of my clients has breast augmentation. And when you have implants, it, as according to Zach, it concentrically orients the pec in which a way that prevents you from getting expansion of the upper rib cage. So as a result, our shoulders will round forward. So the scapula will then protract, anteriorly tilt, and slightly depress. So from there, now they're going to try to find a breathing pattern that allows them to actually breathe, which is allowing the rib cage to come up and then using rectus to have it come back down. So they're very sagittal plane kind of oriented and are stuck there. And as a result, they also lack hip extension severely. So this client in particular, what my focus was getting for her, since she severely lacks external rotation, was driving that posterior thoracic, I call it posterior mediastinum, in that lazy bear position. And that cleaned up instantaneously. And it was easy to coach it through the computer because you can legit see what's going on. You know the cues now of not over rounding on it and just reaching. But in terms of finding infrasternal angle, I kind of had an assumption of what it was, and I knew that she couldn't really put her hands over her head anyway. So I was like, all right, let's get abs first, and we got abs and butt tuck. Saw that she can extend her hips a bit. I'm like, okay, now let's work on a reach to get some pump handle, and then I flipped her over, and we got some good posterior thoracic expansion, and she could front rack a bar and sit in the bottom of a front squat like money. I was like, damn, that's some pretty significant stuff. And this is a client who's actually worked with a postural restoration therapist one-on-one for multiple sessions. And within like 10 minutes, bang, we were getting really good changes.
Wow. And really pretty simple compared to.
I know.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I was working with a client today, and this person was having, has always had issues of getting into a good power position in power cleans or power snatches or whatever it might be. And just, after a little bit of adjusting and just exposing, finding their heels and actually being able to extend their hips. And then all of a sudden they look so much smoother. So, sometimes it's technique, sometimes it's an inability to move properly,
mm-hmm.
And be able to access the areas that you need to access.
Right. Yeah. You can't overcome that with technique practice. No,
it's, and if you do, it's just overcoming it with some kind of compensation, right?
Right. Exactly.
So it's definitely some powerful stuff, but continue to stay open-minded and take it one client at a time, and don't think what's going on before you actually see what's going on. Because I actually had a client today who he has like a scoliosis, and the left rib cage is actually flatter than the right rib cage. So when I did an infrasternal angle test, I saw that was like, it was really, really wide on the left compared to the right. And I was like, first of all, I'm like, have you ever gotten an x-ray? Are your organs on the right side? Number one. And number two, he's like, yeah, my spine's all messed up. I was like, okay, all right. So let's just take a look at what's going on. Sure enough, couldn't do a butt tuck. And this is a high level dancer. Like he danced for many years. So really didn't have any glute activation and had a pooch belly.
Mm-hmm.
So like we talked about last time, the pooch belly and completely bird chest, like completely flat concave chest, pooch belly, and then like butt sticking out. So this is a classic example of someone who's the only way that they're going to get air is through their belly. So just some basic conceptual stuff of like, okay, we got to get in here. We go on air. We want to feel obliques here. We don't want to feel rectus. And saw some improvements, right away. But like, this is a person who's going to be probably like a year or years project to get them moving properly.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a brand new person for you.
Yeah, he's had exposure, but this was like an assessment today for him to work one-on-one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be a lot to work with there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, there's some different things, but again, the more I think we work on it individually and kind of get the ahas, the more that we're going to be able to, take our own little flair on things and then make it our own. Like I know for you, obviously riding BMX and doing high level gymnastics probably has a different spin on things than me being a lacrosse player and then kind of in the sport of CrossFit, that kind of stuff. So, do you think that you could see this branching over into things that are done on the bike there, Scott?
Yeah, I think certainly doing the resets beforehand, probably super helpful positioning things. And I could see, in fact, I'm going to play around with that a little bit here just as soon as the call's over. But I think that definitely has an area. And then, just gymnastics wise, things have felt really good.
Oh, wow, good.
Just in the same way you're going to get in a good position to lift a barbell or kettlebell or whatever. It's, very, very similar. So I think it can really have some pretty good carryover there as well.
Yeah. One other noticing that I had was, again, this might be completely placebo effect, but as I've said before, I take singing lessons. I've been doing it for like 6 months. And one area that I struggle with is generating sound and being able to kind of connect my breath to the sound. So, I had worked out and then I practiced after I worked out, and I felt that I could get such better connection. Like I felt my abs as I was singing.
Oh yeah.
So the way I think about it, because, again, traditionally you think singing as, okay, it's all about your technique here, but high level, like singing is a lot about breath work and connecting the diaphragm to the sound. So I thinking about it in a logical step, it's like, okay, if your rib cage is in a position where it's lifted as you inhale, right? Translating caudally to your, or coronally, I guess, to your head. Then as you try to exhale or try to make the sound, you're not going to have the ability to create that sound nearly as much. So it's going to be much more of a strain, and most likely activating more rectus as you do it anyway, which prevents you from actually getting a breath in on the next, next breath. So after doing my workout and then being able to get it, I felt those abs kicking on, and I felt like as I created the sound, it was more effortless in terms of the sound. So that means that my upper neck and my throat and everything else can kind of relax, and then the air just comes out naturally. And I would love to kind of see, I like to sit down with some higher level singers and see if they actually have control of this, of like that diaphragm / abs area, or if they just find a way to compensate, or if they just do it naturally anyway. And they just like, oh, I just know how to sing. Yeah.
I mean, it could be like in athletics where, the lucky people that have those good patterns, however they have them from the start, are the ones that end up kind of excelling.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I'd
say I'd definitely share, anything you come across there.
Yeah. The funny thing is a very good friend of mine who's also a member at our gym. He's a world-renowned percussion teacher. And he actually sent me an article in regards to singing because he knew I was a singer. And a lot of like 70% of the stuff that they practice is breath work, is learning how to forcefully exhale and that kind of stuff. And it's very interesting that, that there's that crossover between things that we're doing and something that you would think, what does it really matter that you're not breathing correctly? It's like, well, breathing is everything when it comes to singing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's somewhere where maybe it's been figured out for a while. But I'd be curious to see, like you said, to assess and see.
Yeah. It'd be pretty cool to actually get some singers and just say, hey, can I just take a look at your infrasternal angle? Can I see how you actually I think that would be pretty cool. I could probably just look that up on YouTube. Like if you watch some people, the one I think have in mind is like, what is his name? Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh yeah.
Because they usually sing with their shirts off. So maybe you'll be able to see how he's actually breathing and singing, if he's actually using his abs or not.
I bet you could look around on YouTube and probably find a number of cases. Yeah.
If I do find it, I'll do a breakdown of it. You know what I mean? Because my vocal teachers constantly talks about you see all these big operatic singers and how they have such big bellies. It's like he's like, that's why they make so much sound. They have this huge belly, and I'm thinking about what we talked about. I'm like, or they have that belly because they can't breathe properly, and the only way that they can get air is more belly. So they have almost like belly hypertrophy so that they can get more air.
But yeah, I can see that. If you do it all the time, something's probably going to change and adapt, right?
Yeah, it has to, especially if you're making that kind of sound where they're singing in front of an entire stadium in some cases, and there's no mics. They're just singing. You know what I mean? It's pretty incredible. Yeah. But it's interesting also to see that a lot of high level singers who have been doing it for a long time will lose their voice, and I wouldn't be surprised that it would be because of lack of conditioning and lack of ability to control their breath using proper musculature and kind of forcing breath over time.
That certainly could be a component. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the least.
Yeah, so some maybe some things to take a look at over the next week, and maybe we can sit down and I can share my findings thus far. My small sample size, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't know that I know anybody that would fall into the camp. Unfortunately,
yeah. If you got any high level singers, Scott, let me know, and you can give me some insight into what's going on.
Yeah, I'll do some thinking.
Cool. Well, you got anything else for today there, Scotty?
No, I think that'll that should do it.
Yeah, we got some new stuff coming up this week, though. I got preparation for the breathing seminar that I'm going to be doing, or squat, deadlift, and press seminar that I'm going to be doing. So I've been working a lot of. I've been like pulling some people and working on things like toe touches and that kind of stuff. So I got some new stuff that I'm working on, and then we're got some end of the year stuff that we'll be doing and talking about, and perhaps some goal setting for 2019, and see a little wrap up from the last year as well, and all the things that we've accomplished and maybe fell short about.
Yeah.
But yeah,
for sure. That sounds like a great idea.
Perfect.
Year wrap. Yeah, and what in 2019?
Yes, exactly. But in the meantime, everybody, please subscribe to the podcast, give it a review, 5 stars only. Nothing less than 5 stars. Okay. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, just give us an email. And how can you reach us, Scott? I am Sean LaFlock at Sean@CrossFitDiaryBeach.com. And you are?
Scott Hagness at Scott@CrossFitPortland.com.
Perfect. So send those questions if you got them. We'd love to answer them, and spread the knowledge that we have. Yeah. All right.
Do it.
There you go. Yeah. All right, Scotty. I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right. Take care.
Later, dude.
All right. Later.
Bye.